All right. Hello and welcome to this episode, my friends. In this episode, we're going to talk about a frequently asked question or a question that was submitted to me. And the question essentially is, hey, look, I've tried this therapy. I've tried that therapy. I've tried a lot of things and it's not working. What do I do now? So I'm going to read the question more in depth here in just a second. But before we dive into the show, I would really appreciate your support by liking and subscribing, as well as leaving a comment. And if you are joining us via podcast on Spotify or iTunes, please help us out by leaving a review. That really helps the algorithm as well. So your support in these, I know they're simple little things, but they go a long way in helping the algorithm, which helps us get this information to more people. So also, if you're looking for support, have some links down in the notes to get you started, as well as you can always go to restoredminds.com and you can fill out an application to be a part of our program, Taking Back Control. So let's go ahead and dive in. So the question reads today from one of our viewers. It says, "Hi, Matt. Thank you for this consideration," which I really appreciate the politeness, so I wanted to include that. I've tried various services in the past, things that including cognitive behavioral therapy, anxiety workshops, social centers, which I'm not sure what that is, to be honest, home treatment visits from medication, seeing doctors, talk people's ears off, including anyone listen to me, and then these days I'm just using whatever resources available to me. When I'm deeply distressed, my mind wants me to prove things, like it wants me to give it evidence that I'm safe or cared about by others. And I don't know whether it's really asking. So, I know the content isn't the real issue, but I get so worried. I have harm OCD and fear of thoughts and anxiety, although nothing has occurred in many years. Any advice? Okay, so lots to unpack there, but we'll keep it pretty simple, right? So everything I've done isn't working, right? I ain't getting results. What should I do? To really kind of summarize the question, to put it in layman's terms. And, I can totally relate to this. For years, I was going to therapists, psychologists, paying, money I didn't have, just doing everything I could to just essentially kind of get through the day. That was a long time in my life, and it's, sad looking back on it in some ways. Right. But, it was part of my journey and I embraced that and just kind of, I just understand that that's what needed to happen to get me to where I am now. Now, all that said, one of the big issues that I think happens when a person is experiencing this kind of state where I'm trying everything and it's not working, one of the things we need to do is go back to saying, okay, like, what's your intention? What are you trying to, when you say it's not working, what does that mean? Does that mean it's like truly not working, or are you not getting the result that you want? And is you setting up the expectation that you're supposed to have a certain result actually the problem? Now, you might be like, well, what do you mean by that? And this comes back down to, this is an interesting, I was even thinking about doing just an episode on this idea of expectancy versus expectation, but I might do that in the future. Really, at the end of it, if you're trying to do things to get rid of your thoughts and feelings, you're misunderstanding the problem. Because the problem is that your nervous system, if you think of your nervous system, right, it's, like this big upside down stoplight in your body. Green, your nervous system energy is going to be directed into your face for social engagement because it's safe. When it's in yellow, it's going to be in your chest and diaphragm area because, your heart's going to need a pump. You're going to need more oxygen to fight and flight. Red is freeze, immobilize, right? And when your nervous system's in yellow and you feel not safe, you feel fight or flight, if you're doing things that are validating that you're really in danger, it keeps your nervous system in yellow, right? So that's part of the issue, right? Is that it literally it keeps your nervous system in yellow. And if we're trying to talk, one of the things about the nervous system and even just the fear response is it doesn't listen to logic and fear. It listens to like behavioral conditioning, right? You can't talk your way out of fear. This is why talk therapy rarely is an effective intervention for things like OCD and anxiety. I've heard many stories of people, hey, I've spent 2 years in talk therapy, 5 years in talk therapy. And I just, and they intuitively kind of knew like, hey, this isn't getting me anywhere. Right. But they're like, well, I'm doing therapy. So this must be what I need to do. Right. And that's the misnomer or the illusion, the facade, right? Is that just because you're trying something, one, doesn't mean you're trying it right. And two, doesn't mean that technique is actually the thing you need to help with the intervention. Right. And this is where a lot of therapists, coaches, counselors, doctors mislead people. If you're so like, we'll use the example of the marijuana industry. I'm not going to go against the farm industry just in this episode because I've done that a lot. But we'll use the marijuana industry as an example here with anxiety. So I talk to a lot of clients, especially in California. In California, there's a very big culture where it's marijuana is my medicine, right? It's from the ground, so it's my medicine and it's safe. And it's like, well, so is arsenic, dude. I mean, just because something's from the ground, like let's not just go ahead and jump into that boat. But we won't go too deep into that. It's like the idea that if you smoke marijuana and it calms you down when you feel anxious, okay, the issue is that it actually works. If it didn't work, people wouldn't do it, right? Of course it works temporarily. The problem is that if your nervous system was activated, right, for some reason, whether it's social anxiety, intrusive thoughts, panic attacks, whatever, and let's say you smoke weed and it calms you down. The thing is that it still validated the idea that whatever triggered you initially was actually a threat. We didn't devalidate the threat. We just took the symptom that we were experiencing and put a blanket over it or masked it for a second. Then the drug wears off and then the anxiety comes back and then we keep using it and using it and using it. It's symptom treatment, not causal treatment. Right. And that's what a lot of people do. So it also validates the idea that anxiety is bad. Right. So it's like the idea of like, take this to calm the anxiety down. It validates right there that anxiety itself is bad. And it's like, is it bad? No, I don't believe it is. Right. So when you go with the idea of like therapy isn't working and you've tried all these things, one of the things, the main question I would pose back is, okay, what are you trying to accomplish through these things? What is the end result you're going for? If it's to have no thoughts and feelings, that's not the outcome that these interventions are often going for, right? The intervention here is to break the loop that you're caught in, which means eliminate all the behaviors you're doing that are reinforcing that the thoughts are dangerous and these feelings are dangerous and that to your nervous system that you really should be in fight or flight. Because if you devalidate the threat enough, your nervous system naturally shifts back into green. Right? So this is about threat devalidation, right? Right now, my nervous system, if it's going off, it's saying that there's a threat. And if there's no threat present, what my job is to devalidate the threat to the nervous system by not engaging in any behaviors that are going to reinforce that. This is why the anxiety spectrum, the psychological stress, right? General anxiety, social anxiety, panic attacks, OCD, even derealization, even PTSD to some level. what our job is to send consistent messages of safety to the nervous system, not get rid of thoughts and feelings. If we attempt to work at this from a thought and feeling level and we're trying to force the intervention to get that result, we're not going to have results, period. End of story. Just what it is, right? So that's what I would say is if therapy hasn't worked for you to this point, it's not that you need to give up on therapy, but you need to go into whatever intervention you're using with the proper intention and understanding what we're really trying to accomplish. And it comes back down to this nervous system idea of showing your nervous system that you're safe. And that doesn't happen by getting, by treating symptomology. That doesn't happen by, and transparently, a lot of the techniques that coaches and counselors and doctors tell you, right? Like, that's why, making sure you understand all the safety behaviors you're doing, or all the compulsions, whatever you want to call them, is foundational to your success in this. It's so important. So, I empathize with the person who wrote this in the sense of like, the idea of like, hey, I've done all these things for all these years. I totally have been there. Okay. So like, I am not like minimizing that journey you've been on, but the idea here is that we need to have a broader context of what our objective is with recovery. And then when using a certain intervention, specifically like exposure response prevention, something like that, really understand why we're doing it. This is why psychoeducation and really the education is so important. That's why, like in Taking Back Control, I mean, there is a heavy, initial education period that every one of my clients goes through, because it's like, if you don't understand what we're doing here, and you're using a tool in a whack-a-mole approach to try to get rid of every thought and feeling that you don't like, you're not going to be successful. This is why not only education, but also consciousness is so important on this journey. And this is why in the book, I talk so much about that, right? And so if you haven't checked out the book yet, there's a little link down in the notes. It's $6, right? And there's a full refund, right? Guarantee. So it's like, I tried to make it rather risk-free for people that are reading it, because, it's so important to have that information as like a foundation to your recovery. And I think what a lot of people do with, especially with questions like this, is that they're assuming that the goal is to eliminate all thoughts and feelings. And then when something doesn't do that, they think that the problem is with the intervention, with really it's the intention in which you use the intervention. And I know it's kind of like a little meta there, and I'm hoping what I'm saying makes sense here, but that's why that educational foundation is so important. So, I hope this was helpful. I hope it makes sense what I'm saying here. And, but that's what I would say to this person. It's like, I totally empathize with your journey. And the thing is, I would tell you, I think what we need to do is go back to kind of the foundations and understanding the education. Great thing to start with would be the book, From Stuck to Unstuck, right down in the notes. And then once we have that, and then we have that idea of consciousness, then with the interventions, what we'll do is we'll start actually using the interventions from, number one, a higher level of consciousness, and number two, from the correct intentionality of like what they're designed to do. So, and that's why the AAA response with all the mental behaviors is such an important intervention, because we really need to make sure we're eliminating those mental safety behaviors. So, hope this was helpful. It's a great question. For those of you that want to submit a question for future episodes, please, there's a little link down in the notes as well. You can submit a question for us to review, and we'll consider it for a future episode. And then if you're looking for help or assistance or guidance on your journey, please head over to restoredminds.com. You can start with the book, you can start with the workshop, you can fill out an application, and then my team and I can get back to you. So wish you all a great week. And yeah, with that said, I will be seeing you on the next episode. Take care. Hey there, hope you enjoyed that recent video. We really would appreciate your support real quick if you could like and subscribe to our channel. And if you're looking for help with OCD and anxiety, please check out the links below or visit restoredminds.com, as we'd be happy to help you on your journey. Thanks so much.